Okay, let's dive right into this. Listen, if you've spent, any time at all looking into personal finance, you've absolutely crossed paths with Robert Kiyosaki's legendary book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, it's practically required reading for anyone trying to build wealth. But today, well, we're going to do things a little differently. In this explainer, our goal is to really stress test the core lessons of this famous book. We're going to take a critical, respectful, but very direct look at 10 specific reasons why the lessons in here might need a massive reality check. Now, we aren't doing this to completely trash its foundational value because, hey, there's a reason it's famous, but we really need to explore those counterarguments that nobody hands you before you buy in completely. And just to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what we're talking about, look at this number, 40 million. That is how many copies Rich Dad, Poor Dad has sold worldwide. That's honestly mind-boggling. It's basically treated as the financial Bible for an entire generation. You've got teachers recommending it, parents gifting it to their kids. The prevailing thought out there is that if you just adopt the mindset of the rich dad instead of the poor dad, boom, your financial life will magically transform. But here's the thing we always have to remember as focused learners. Immense popularity does not equal accuracy. A book that people treat as absolute gospel, well, it deserves heavy scrutiny, not just blind loyalty.
So, the crucial point is, to help us efficiently digest this reality check, we've grouped these 10 specific flaws into 5 logical categories. We're looking at the myth versus reality, shaky foundations and missing facts, oversimplified rules, hidden risks, and finally, a starting point. Let's get right to it. Section 1. The myth versus reality.
Before we really get into the critique, I want to offer a fair olive branch here. It's incredibly important to acknowledge what this book actually got right, because honestly, it genuinely changed the landscape of personal finance. Its real superpower was getting literally millions of people to start thinking about cash flow, assets, and financial literacy. It took everyday people who had never thought deeply about money, people who definitely weren't taught this stuff in high school, and introduced them to an entirely new vocabulary. It got people off the sidelines and into the game. That is a massive, undeniable achievement, and we should absolutely respect the book for opening those doors. But as you'll see, getting people to the starting line is very, very different from handing them a safe, accurate map for the rest of the race.
Moving right along to Section 2, shaky foundations and missing facts.
So, this is our first major critique bucket, the foundational flaws underlying the entire message of the book. When you look closely at what's holding these theories up, well, the pillars start to look a little wobbly. Let's rapidly synthesize reasons 1, 7, and 10 from our source material. First off, the foundational story, it might be complete fiction. The whole book compares Kiyosaki's biological poor dad to his mentor, the rich dad, but journalists have dug into this for years and found zero evidence that this rich dad actually existed. Kiyosaki himself has even backpedaled, calling the character a composite or a teaching device. Second, there's practically zero data, no citations, and no external verification in the text. It asks you to trust a cool story rather than credible market data or academic research. And finally, and this is a big one, context matters. Kiyosaki's own company, Rich Global LLC, actually filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy back in 2012 after a multi-million-dollar legal judgment. I mean, think about it. If the foundational story is an unverified fable, the claims lack any real data, and the teacher's own company went bankrupt, we absolutely must apply some heavy scrutiny to this advice.
Section 3. Oversimplified rules, real barriers.
This is where we shift from the narrative of the book to its actual conceptual framework, and this brilliantly illustrates reason number 2. The book relies heavily on these catchy little ideas that sound amazing on paper, but they totally collapse in real life. Take the definition of an asset. The book says an asset only counts if it puts money in your pocket every single month. It's exactly why the book famously claims your house is a liability. But actually, scratch that. The real-world literal accounting definition is way broader. An asset is anything you own that has value, full stop. The book's oversimplified definition is super dangerous because it encourages beginners to just completely dismiss appreciating assets, things like index funds, retirement accounts, or, a paid-off home. It's a fantastic soundbite for sure, but it is terrible financial guidance.
Which brings us right into reasons 6 and 8. The book constantly frames traditional education and stable jobs as a trap or the dreaded rat race. But come on, for most people, a steady job with health insurance and a predictable income isn't a trap. It's the absolute crucial safety net and foundation you need before you can even think about taking a financial risk. Furthermore, the book treats wealth building purely as an attitude or a mindset shift, and that completely ignores some very real structural barriers. You could have two people with the exact same rich dad mindset, but radically different outcomes, simply because one lacks starting capital, has a poor credit history, or just doesn't have family privilege. Presenting it all as just a state of mind lets the book completely sidestep the uncomfortable reality that, well, not everyone starts on the same game board.
All right, Section 4. Hidden risks and outdated advice.
This is perhaps the absolute most critical part of our explainer today, because this is where the gap between inspiration and reality becomes genuinely dangerous. Let's tackle reason number 3, survivorship bias. What does that mean? It means focusing on the successful people who survived a process while completely ignoring the much larger group who failed. Rich Dad Poor Dad showcases these massive winners in real estate and entrepreneurship as the clear, obvious path forward. But it completely ignores the countless people who leveraged debt, followed the exact same playbook, and got totally wiped out by a bad market cycle or just bad timing. Inspiration without honest risk disclosure isn't education, folks. It's a sales pitch.
And speaking of that playbook, let's address reason number 5 by kind of shattering the illusion of real estate as this magical passive income machine. The book basically says step 1 is to leverage debt to get a property, implying you just kick back on a beach and collect cash. But reality is step 2. Unexpected vacancies, totally unpredictable maintenance, and difficult tenants. All of which very, very quickly leads to step 3, a massive financial and legal headache. Don't get me wrong, real estate is not a bad investment, but it is highly active and extremely hands-on. The book sells this fantasy version that just skips right over the operational reality, and honestly, that gap is where new investors get incredibly hurt.
And finally for this bucket, reasons 4 and 9. The book heavily promotes using good debt or leverage, right? But it provides absolutely zero guidance on risk management or interest rate exposure. Teaching someone to use leverage without teaching them how leveraged losses work is literally like handing someone the keys to a ridiculously fast car without installing any brakes. It's a recipe for disaster. On top of that, we have to remember this book was published in the late 1990s. The tax strategies and legal structures it recommends reflect that specific era and are heavily US-specific. Following decades-old tax advice today without double-checking current laws, that is a massive, totally unnecessary risk.
Finally, Section 5, a starting point, not gospel.
So, let's land the plane here and bring our narrative arc back to a really grounded perspective. After dissecting these 10 flaws, where does that actually leave us with this legendary book? Well, it leaves us with this exact mindset. It's a starting point, not a finish line. None of this means you should just go toss Rich Dad Poor Dad in the trash. The real takeaway here is to take the mindset shift it offers incredibly seriously. Let it motivate you. Let it help you escape financial complacency. But once you have that motivation, you've got to go out and build the actual financial literacy, learn the real accounting math, and develop the rigorous risk management that this book completely skips over. Just don't treat it as the finish line.
I want to leave you with a quick question to think about today. Which of these 10 reasons surprised you the most? Was it the total lack of evidence for the rich dad, the survivorship bias, or maybe the reality of the asset definition? Reflecting on what challenges your preconceived notions is exactly how you become a sharper, more focused learner. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions and absolutely keep building your financial reality on solid ground.
Quick question. Could you explain what was in the last 5 books you read? Most people forget 90% of a book within a week. Reading isn't the problem, retaining is. The video display you see right now breaks down 10 tricks top leaders use to actually keep what they read. Smarter highlighting, a 1-page book map, and the 48-hour rule that decides if an idea sticks for life. If books ever slipped away a week later, this fixes that. It's on your screen now. Click it now and watch it.
So that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, leave a comment below, and consider subscribing. And share this video with your friends. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.